We have a very interesting topic today, and that is how to save the world. It's a very interesting topic, and I think it's one that's probably on many people's minds. I think what's on many people's minds is the question, can we save the world, or does the world need saving? The question that we lead off with is, does the world need saving? That's a very interesting way of putting it. Most people say we want to go heal the world. Most people say we need to save the earth. But does the world need saving? The answer to that actually is yes and no. Insofar as the human species is a part of the world needs saving. It's the human species that needs to save itself from itself. The only cause of any problem, or even why the question would arise, does the world need saving, or can we save the world, the only reason that question would even arise is because of the human species, the crazy two-leggeds who have taken over the earth. The issue then really is, can the human beings stop themselves from destroying themselves as a key ingredient of the earth? Of course, we believe the answer is yes, we can do that. We can stop ourselves. We can keep ourselves from self-destruction. It may also be that the Creator has a plan that will keep the human beings from even getting to that point. The world in itself, the earth, Mother Earth has taken care of herself for over 4 billion years. And I'm quite certain that Mother Earth will continue to take care of herself. She has survived meteorites, comets, any number of celestial perturbances that have struck her and changed her climate, volcanoes, everything else. The Earth doesn't need to be saved in that sense. The human species needs to save itself from itself. The Earth will go on. It has a spirit, it has an energy, and a truth far beyond what the petty mortal reasoning of the human race can conceive. How do we save ourselves? That's the real question. The next question, which is, I think, very much related to that, is world peace possible in our time? I have an emphatic yes to that question. I have felt that for many, many years, for most of my life. I've felt that peace is possible within our life, within our lifetime. Most people would look around and say, it's absurd to think that. It's absurd to think that we could keep from destroying ourselves. How can we possibly do this? Well, the issue is, what makes the human race distinct from the other species? Of course, we could say what makes us distinct is our ability to destroy, our violence, our inability to control ourselves, our capacity to spread all over the earth indiscriminately, our ability to create trash wherever we go. We could say, oh, that makes us distinct. But we can also say, what makes us distinct in actuality is that we have spirit, that we have a soul, that we have a soul essence, that we have consciousness, and that our consciousness can expand and be raised. And this is the point. If there is to be peace in our lifetime, it will be because we have a capacity in our consciousness to actually change ourselves and to change the world. The collective possibility of our consciousness as a unified, synchronized force has yet to be truly tapped. It is through the synchronization of a collective mass of consciousness that we can attain peace and that we can change the world. The great psychic Edgar Cayce once said that if the human consciousness were harnessed together as a force, it could actually change the activity of the sun. This is the truth. The sun affects our electromagnetic field. The electromagnetic affects our brain. Our brain can affect the electromagnetic field. We know that we live in a field of consciousness. We know that we live in a bioelectromagnetic field. And how we think and how we feel and how we do can change that whole field. There were studies that were being made by the Princeton University research group, as well as another organization called the Global Coherence Initiative, and they demonstrated that, for instance, at the 9/11, that there was a great spike in consciousness. Satellites actually detected a perturbance in the electromagnetic field, and that was due to the massive response in the human psyche to what was occurring at the 9/11. Even more interesting is that there was a spike in consciousness and in the electromagnetic field more than 20 minutes before that event, which demonstrated that there was some kind of intuition in the collective unconscious foreshadowing that occurrence. We know that the medicine men can make thunderstorms, can change the weather patterns. Well, the collective human consciousness can actually change the electromagnetic field of the earth. The collective human consciousness as a synchronized force can change the whole field of consciousness itself. This is very possible, and it's attainable in a very, very short period of time. All we need to do is to put out the word to create mass global synchronized meditations with this particular focused purpose, and we will be able to do it. We will be able to actually create peace and create miracles. This is how we get to attaining world peace within our lifetime. When we talk about these things, we're talking about, furthermore, a scientific hypothesis or a scientific premise, and that is the premise of the noosphere. The noosphere is the mental sphere of the earth. It is the mind of the earth. Scientists for a number of years now have been predicting and stating that we're going through a major shift, that the impact of human thought on the environment is changing the environment. You stop and think when we talk about pollution, when we talk about global warming, where did that come from? It came from the human mind. It came from human consciousness. Human consciousness created the machine. Human consciousness created the whole process of the machine technology, of the technosphere. That's what's been altering the earth. Now that is the beginning stage, actually, of the noosphere, which is the arising of the actual conscious mind of the earth. The noosphere, we can see, is an unconscious factor for thousands of years, and as we approach this 2012, 2013 point, that we're going from the unconscious noosphere to the conscious noosphere. The noosphere, from some point of view, is an inevitable next stage of the human evolution. It is the stage where we go from matter being the principal factor, the materialism, to mind and spirit being the dominant factor. We are at the threshold of this possibility now, and the way that we actually trigger that is to create the critical mass of human consciousness collectively focused on the fact and on the point that we actually can change the electromagnetic field, we can change the field of consciousness, we can change how and what we are. Now, we're obviously on this topic here of change, the transformation of ourselves and transformation of the world. When the question is asked, what is more important, personal change or to change the world? Well, in some ways you would have to say, well, if you don't change your consciousness, how can you expect to change anything? You have to begin with changing your consciousness. Well, through history, many people have changed their consciousness. But we now would have to say, changing your consciousness will work to change the world if you have the goal that I am changing my consciousness in order to change the world. That I'm not changing my consciousness just to become a better this or a better that. I'm changing my consciousness because I am part of the world mind and I want to change the world mind. That I need to change my own attitudes, I need to change my own way of thinking, I need to change my own self-perceptions in order that I can participate in changing the world. The root issue that we're talking about is the issue of human consciousness, of global consciousness, of cosmic consciousness. We talk about becoming more conscious. We talk about becoming more self-reflective. We talk about needing to rise to a higher perspective, to a higher level, to a global, to a planetary perspective. We need to rise above all the historical biases, all the historical chauvinisms, all the historical prejudices that burden our consciousness. We need to divest our consciousness of past trappings. This is a very, very key issue. So when the question is asked, how does one change oneself? To change oneself requires, first of all, that you feel like you need to change. You feel that it's necessary in order to get to a position of greater self-respect, of greater dignity, of greater sense of self-worth. So how do we change ourselves? We have to first have the feeling that, yes, I do need to change. I can't just accept myself the way I am. And so when we get to that point, then what we need is we need discipline. We need to discipline our self, we need to discipline our lower self, we need to discipline our emotions. We need to take a real survey of what it is that we are. Now the fact is that most of us, for a large degree, are conditioned beings. We are conditioned by all the thoughts of the past, all the thoughts that say, you are this, you are that, I am this, I am that. I remember very well the books of Carlos Castaneda and the teachings of Don Juan. I think the central teaching that Don Juan had to Carlos Castaneda in the earliest books were drop your personal history. That's a very important point. Most people who go through life repeat their personal history over and over again, and they don't ever get to a fresh perspective. If you want to change yourself, you have to realize some very dramatic and radical things about your existence. Most of what you think you are has no validity, no reality whatsoever. To change yourself, you have to begin, so I have to drop my personal history. I have to drop my story. I have to drop the storyline I'm always telling myself. I have to look at my habits and my patterns. This is why people go on meditation retreats. This is why people go on vision quests. This is why people drop out of society for a while so that they actually can see what it is that they are and see what it is that they aren't. To see what you aren't, getting rid of what you aren't, so you can actually come and see to some degree what is your soul essence, what is your true spirit nature. It's like the Buddy Redbow song says, purify your body, purify your mind while you can, because you have to get ready for the spirit journey. We're going on a spirit journey. We're going from this world of materialism to the noosphere, which is a spirit journey into the mind of the earth. That's the meaning of this shift. So if you want to change yourself, you have to admit you know, if I keep on in telling myself this same story about myself, I'm just becoming smelly. You don't want to be smelly, you want to be fresh as a daisy. You want to change yourself and become a fresh, genuine human being. Fool's Crow says in his teachings that we must become like hollow little bones. That hollow little bone where all the personal stuff is cleared out, all your biases, everything like that is cleared out, so that you become a channel and a medium for the higher spirit energy, a medium for what the voice of the earth wants you to be speaking and saying. So all of that, we have to become empty vessels in actuality, and to do that we have to maintain watch on ourselves, so that we realize that we're getting rid of our little self and moving into a higher spirit self. That's some idea of how we change ourselves, how we change the world. Right? Well, we change the world by changing ourselves, and we change the world by becoming that change in ourselves. That's really how we change the world. We can talk about the external things that we could do, you know, like not polluting and these kinds of things, but that's relatively minimal. We all need to do that. We all need to take much greater responsibility. We all have to say, no, I can't leave one drop of trash behind me. I have to clean up. I have to make sure everything around me is taken care of. That's a matter of responsibility. So how we save the world, how we change the world, is through our taking complete responsibility for absolutely every action, every thought, every word. Sometimes we think, well, no one knows what I think, but that's not true. Creator knows what you think, and also what you think, even though you think you're keeping it to yourself, what you think goes out. It's not just in your head. If you're creating an environment with your thought and with your attitude, and that environment that you create is part of the whole psychic environment, the psychic ocean that we live in. So you can't really have private thoughts and think they're not affecting anything. Every thought has a charge, has an electrical charge. Every thought goes into the noosphere. Every thought affects the noosphere one way or another. So we have to have clean thoughts. We have to have Zen thoughts. We have to have no thoughts. We have to be empty and clear and clean, ready for receiving what is greater than ourselves. And also when we talk about these things, it's not like we're really changing the world. It's that we are participating in the Creator's plan. That we want to, why we want to get ourselves cleaned up, why we want to become hollow little bones, why we want to become empty vessels, and so we can participate better in the Creator's plan. This is we think we're running the show, and it appears that we are, and most people in the world act like they're running the show, but they're not. They're just robots. The show is really being run by a plan that was set in motion eons ago, and now we're at this point where something is shifting. We're going into a new stage. We're being asked to evolve. We're being asked to step up to the plate. We're being asked to participate in a much higher consciousness field, a cosmic consciousness field. And so that is where we're headed with this. And so in order to do all this, the issue is that we have to stay awake. How do we stay awake? Well, I've touched on this somewhat. We stay awake by staying open. We stay awake by staying receptive. We stay awake by not filling the space with our storyline whenever there's an empty space. We have to learn how to be comfortable with emptiness. We have to know how, when something is said, when something is spoken, to just be with that, to rest in the silence of it. We need to be receivers. That's how we stay awake. If we can be in a receptive medium of consciousness, that is how we stay awake. The being awake is the most key ingredient, because when you really remain awake, you're not in the past, you're not in the future, you're in the present moment, and you are alert, you are aware and alert, and you are having a sense of crispness about yourself and about your being, and you are seeing and taking in with your senses what is going on. The need to speak all the time is the way that we fall asleep. When we fall asleep, we are being entranced by our idea of the world. When we fall asleep, we are being deluded by the world. When we fall asleep, we are losing our consciousness and perspective of the goal that we have of changing the consciousness of the planet, changing the consciousness of the human race. If enough people wake up, the world will wake up. This is the whole point that we've been talking about. We're getting ready to cross this threshold from terrorism and global warming and consumerism. We're crossing a threshold, which is called the biosphere-noosphere transition. We're crossing that threshold into planetary consciousness, or the planetarization of consciousness. And to do this, we need to affect a state of wakefulness with ourselves and with a growing mass of people. We need to say, we need to wake up to what is going on around us. We need to wake up and not participate in the destructive actions and nature of the current civilization. We need to wake up, and we need to wake up together and create collective cells, collective groups that are meditating and practicing methods of staying awake, and synchronizing with all the other possible groups that are doing similar kinds of things all around the planet. We need to create a wave of wakefulness, especially as we go through into the 2012 year, which is going to be a very climactic year. People wonder if something will happen. Well, the greatest something that will happen is that the human race will wake up, that sufficient numbers of the human race will wake up to not only show that that is possible and make a difference, but that will align itself with cosmic events that are of an inevitable nature and which will be coming our way. The way we approach things in the present world, we think we know everything. We have a Hubble telescope that says we found the oldest galaxy is 13 billion years old. We think we've seen the edge of time, we think we've seen the edge of the beginning. But and many of those things are very, very beautiful, but we're only talking about the surface of it. We don't know the underlying dynamics. We don't know the actual nature of, for instance, of galactic density waves as they ripple through, creating the spiral arms of galaxies, and how they affect the timing and the changing of stars and star systems, and the evolution and mutation of the species on the planets. We are on the verge of experiencing the ripples of a galactic density wave, and it will change the frequency of our planet. It will change the frequency of our solar system. For this reason, we must become spiritually strong and awake so we can ride the wave as it passes through our solar system in 2012 and 2013. Being awake is how the surfer makes it on the wave. Well, those are just some thoughts that have to do with the present situation. I believe very strongly that we are already in the beginning stages of this massive shift, this galactic density wave that is coming through us. The question is, how was I set on my path? I was to come to some of these conclusions, I presume, and I was set on my path by a fortunate experience I had at the age of 14 on top of the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan in Mexico. And I was fortunate enough at that point in time to be given a vision or an experience of just how far the present human race was from cosmic order and sacred power. I could see that. I could see what a gulf of difference there was between Sears and Roebuck in Mexico City and the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan. That set me on a lifelong path. On the one hand, it set me on a path of investigating the mathematics and culture, astronomy and calendar of the ancient Maya civilization. It also set me on a path of investigating the nature and history of the diversity of all human cultures around the planet, to see what was common, because I perceived that if we are one whole earth, that everything has a place on the earth. There shouldn't be any sense of one religion or one spiritual path being better or greater than the other, one culture being stronger or greater than the other. I see how Mother Earth tolerates absolutely everything. She doesn't say, I don't like you and I like him. She just says, whatever you need, take it and see where it gets you. So I found it very necessary to study all these human cultures and to see the unity and the diversity of the nature of our humanity on this earth. And I also saw that it was necessary to investigate states of spirituality, states of mind, states of consciousness. It struck me very early on that with the high caliber of the Mayan galactic mathematics, that there was higher states of consciousness, cosmic states of consciousness beyond our planetary state. And I saw that the various spiritual traditions of the world were all pointing in the direction of going to a higher unified consciousness, unity consciousness. I saw that like nearly in every tradition that there were always mystics who said, no, we have to go higher. Up here, we're all one. This is all one common endeavor. We're all one earth. We're all one people. We're all one consciousness. We're all one mind. And so I found it very necessary to examine those possibilities of spiritual unification. I began to see the real degree of sophistication in cosmic civilization is the degree of spiritual unification among any planetary species. We, as human beings, as the two-leggeds of this earth, are actually a single planetary organism. We can do something no other organism can do, and that is we can live anywhere. We can inhabit any place. We can adapt to any particular situation. We can be Eskimos. We can live in the Arctic. We can be Polynesian navigators. We can be Australian Aboriginals living for 40,000 years in what would seem to us as inhospitable places. All of that we are, and we are one species. And as one single species, that we are now on the verge of knowing and realizing that as a single species, we are the field of consciousness of the earth. We are the carriers, we are the molecules, we are the cells of the consciousness of the earth. And in that we are approaching the possibility of new horizons, of possibilities of mind, of what we call paranormal possibilities, of telepathic possibilities, that we know exist. And many great saints and shamans and seers and seekers and visionaries and psychics have demonstrated over and over and over again that our minds have power far beyond the material limitations that we bind our lives to. So I can see that we are now approaching that threshold, of crossing that threshold toward the planetary oneness, which is our destiny. Currently, to achieve this vision, to fulfill this vision, I have several projects I'm working on. I'm just completing a book called the Manifesto for the Noosphere, Envisioning Earth as a Work of Art, which will be published next September by North Atlantic Books. With my partner, Stephanie South, I'm engaged in a research project called the Noosphere 2 Research Project, in which we are experimenting and experiencing the states of mind and consciousness of the noosphere in accord with the law of time. The law of time, which is the universal law of time that says time is the factor of universal synchronization. The nature of the noosphere is telepathy and synchronization. These are the governing factors of the noosphere. So we're exploring this, and in that process we are creating a series of books called the Cosmic History Chronicles, a 7-volume series. We've completed 6 of those and are about to begin work on the 7th, which will be published in 2011. And as far as my visions of the future, I think I've spelled out some of it. I believe that we're going into a stage by 2013 in which we will have peace on Earth, in which we will have experienced a consciousness, a quantum consciousness shift, a mind shift, that we will have entered a whole new phase of the evolution of the Earth. I see that in the evolutionary, cosmic evolutionary process, we go from matter to life to mind to supermind. We went from, the Earth was in a state of matter and incipient life for 3.5 billion years. And then 500 million years ago, the miracle of life occurred on Earth. And that was the first big transition. Now, and then as life evolved, then mind became active, and now we're going to a stage in which mind and spirit leading to supermind will be in the ascendance. The age of materialism will soon be over. The age of the genius will be replaced by the age of the mystic. We are going to a phase where we'll have contact with our spiritual elders in cosmic civilization, and then we're going to a phase where we will become members of cosmic civilization itself. We're going to a phase in which our values are going to shift dramatically, and we will no longer be living by the philosophy of time is money, but we will be living by the philosophy time is art. We will make Earth into a work of art, and we will become very happy, blissful telepaths occupying a world whose wonders will continuously keep opening to us, because finally we will be operating with all of our faculties, with all of our senses, with every aspect of our mind. We will be open, loving, compassionate beings, transforming our environment as it transforms us, and we become one gigantic symbiotic entity of the Earth. This is my vision of the future.